It integrates with Square if you need point of sale, the 20 level. So that's not the minimum. I like to print out the pick ticket. The pick ticket So a good place to start, I think, is sales. There's a lot of different ways to get sales into Fishbowl. Obviously, we can come here to the sales order screen and manually enter a sales order, right? Fishbowl will check availability. You can create an estimate in the sales order screen. The sales order screen is in a couple of different statuses. It starts out as an estimate, and then it progresses to an issued sales order. Of course, it integrates with your email, so you can email sales orders to your customers. A sales order is a confirmation. An estimate is a quote or an agreement to sell something at a price, and a sales order is agreement to ship something. If you need to demand payment ahead of time, then you should send a deposit invoice or a pro forma invoice. The customer technically doesn't owe you anything until you've shipped them something. So Fishbowl, following general accounting principles, doesn't create AR until you've shipped something. So when you create an estimate or a sales order in Fishbowl, it stays in Fishbowl, and then you pick it, pack it, and ship it. And once you ship it, it'll create an invoice in either QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online, depending on which one you're connected to. So other ways for sales orders to find themselves into the system is with an integration with, say, something like Shopify or Amazon. If we go to the integrations area, you'll see all these software programs that Fishbowl integrates with. It integrates with ShipStation. It integrates with Amazon, both FBA and FBM. It integrates with Avalara to help with calculating taxes. It integrates with BigCommerce. It has its own robust e-commerce hub called Fishbowl Commerce. It integrates with eBay, Magento, Shopify, TaxJar, Walmart, WooCommerce. And something to think about, if the shopping cart is not here that you see, Shopify acts as an e-commerce hub. So you could essentially integrate anything with Fishbowl as from an e-commerce. Also, it's good to point out that Fishbowl integrates with SPS Commerce in case you need EDI integrations. It integrates with Square if you need point of sale. Shopify is another option if you need point of sale to integrate with it. And as far as point of sale is concerned, Fishbowl has something called checkout. So yes, you can connect Fishbowl to point of sale hardware and use a touchscreen or a scanner for its checkout features, point of sale features. So I think we covered all the different ways you can funnel cells into Fishbowl. Of course, manually key in EDI, e-commerce, shopping cart integrations, marketplace integrations to funnel your sales into Fishbowl. Now what's next? Once you get a sales order in the system, it's time to fulfill that sales order. And so if you have the inventory in stock, you can immediately go to picking and begin managing the picks and deciding what to pick. Or if you don't have the inventory in stock, say you've got a yellow circle here, we either need to manufacture it or purchase it to get it into stock. So let's go to manufacturing next, and let's show you how to create manufacture orders in Fishbowl. So Fishbowl recently partnered with a company called Conversite and internalized their feature as AI Insights. So this is very exciting. This is a new dashboard in Fishbowl that covers AI Insights. And with Conversite, you can also create your own reports with a query builder. I don't have access to that yet, so I'm not going to demo that in this video, but you can see another video I did with Conversite in my YouTube channel. Be sure to check that out, and you'll see what Conversite can do with Fishbowl, together with Fishbowl. So in Fishbowl, Fishbowl's calling it AI Insights, and that's the dashboard there. Let's take a look at the manufacturer order screen. In this manufacturer order screen, we have this button. It's called the Auto MO. When you click on this Auto MO button and click Next, there's nothing to show here, but if you were short on something or something had a reorder point, something with a bill of material had a reorder point, that was above what your forecasted quantity on hand is, it would tell you to buy more. So let's go play with that for a second. I'm going to go to our bills of material screen, we'll see some example bills of material we have in this example file. And I'm going to click on this new to biking kit is what it's called. Actually, let's pick a different one. Let's pick one where we're actually making a bike. So this part number right here, I'm going to click on that and go to that part number. Here's a bike. We're going to make this bike. And on the inventory screen, we'll see here that we don't have any reorder points set up. If I go ahead and set that up and say we want 20 maximum, now let's say 50 maximum, and we want it to trigger what to purchase at the 20 level. So that's not the minimum. The minimum is a safety stock. That's another conversation for another day. But when the forecasted quantity on hand gets to 20, then it will trigger to make more. So we'll click OK here, click Save. We're going to go to the manufacturer order screen, click Auto MO. Looks like we need some raise our reorder points up more. So this one says we've got 24 on hand, subtract allocated, that's 23 plus 104, that's 127. So in order for this example to work, we're going to need to change our reorder point to be over 127. And boy, we're going to make a lot of bikes. All right, and click Save. So now our trigger point, our reorder point is 150, up 2 level is 250. So if we go back to the manufacturer order screen and click the Auto MO, and next we'll see, okay, it's time to make 123 of those FG 2100s. We'll click Finish. And we've got some more FG 2100s to make. We'll click Issue, or we'll schedule this bike to be made in the future, and click Issue. Now, Fishbowl has light capacity planning, light shop floor planning as well. And to make that work, we need to make sure our bill of material is set up properly with the proper categories. So over here under calendar, we can come here and say, let's set up an assembly area and give it a color. Let's give it a different color. And then our bill of material we can assign to the assembly area. And as a best practice, I think it's always good to set this to 4 hours. Click Save. And I also think it's a good practice to create an assembly area in locations. So under this bill of material, we have a default location as well. And we need to create an assembly area. So in Fishbowl, I mentioned earlier that Fishbowl is robust warehouse management, and it does location tracking very well. So if you have your locations set up right, when you purchase and receive an item, it'll tell you where to put it. When you pick an item out of stock and pick it to either the manufacturing area or the sales order area, or the shipping area, excuse me, it will tell you where to pick it. It'll also tell you where it is. So if your warehouse is large enough, say over 5,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet, then Fishbowl can help you track your inventory from one location to another location, either by receiving or picking or moving. It's pretty simple to set this up. Fishbowl has an auto create feature to help you set up your locations. And previous to this video, I went ahead and set up some locations here. You'll see B3D, B4A, basically your aisles, your bays, and your shelves, or your areas, right? And set up your locations. And so then when you receive, you can receive into there. So we're going to set up an assembly location. So when pickers pick for a work order, they know to bring it to that assembly location. I'll click Save, and it wants me to log out and log back in to save that. So now that we have that assembly location, we can assign a bill of material. Always be worked on in that particular assembly location. Now you see also that Fishbowl does location group tracking, and in this particular example file we have a location group, which is basically a warehouse with an address, or it's a building with an address. Okay, that's a location group in Fishbowl. So we've got a building in New York, we've got a building in LA, we've got a building in Salt Lake City, one in Texas, and we'll talk about consignment in a little while. But so you can have multiple buildings, multiple addresses. You'll see here over in the company area, we've got an address in Orem, we've got an address in Texas, we've got an address in New York, we've got an address in LA. So each warehouse is tied to an address. And the software also has a transfer order screen if you need to transfer from one warehouse to another, or if you do more of a hub and spoke model, for instance, and you purchase to the hub and then the spokes sort of buy from the hub, right? So that would be a transfer request from the hub, and we can talk about that more. But in the bill of material, we want to set up a category on the calendar to say assembly, and then also a matching location for the bill of material to be in assembly. Fishbowl also has the ability to put in instructions or steps, and this is a good place for me to pull in this guy as well. The Fishbowl mobile warehouse can actually close out work orders with the mobile warehouse. We'll get to that later as well. But in this tablet, we can throw this over on its side here. Let's put this in landscape mode. And in landscape mode, we can close out work orders step by step. And we'll get to that and show you that as well. Let's just put in a few steps here. We'll call step 1 assembly, step 2 tuning, step 3 packaging. I'm just making this up. So we've got TB-1000. Now, another thing I didn't mention when we were creating sales orders is if we create a sales order with something that we assembly, such as a TB-1000, and we're short on it, we don't have enough, then it will ask us to create a work order. So we can create work orders from sales orders. We can create custom work orders from sales orders, as well as also over here, this little green plus symbol, we can just select custom work order right here and build our own work order from the sales order screen. So you'll see that Fishbowl is very robust from a manufacturing perspective for small businesses. And since we already have enough in stock, it's not asking us to make more. So now that we have that bill of materials set up with categories and default locations and everything, I'm going to delete this and recreate it. Throw this back on here again, reschedule that, and issue this manufacturer order. So now this manufacturer order, since we put this guy on the assembly area, that's going to automatically appear in the calendar on that date, which is, in this case, March 5th. We check the box for assembly and say we want to see the work orders that are in the assembly area, and we go to that week that has March 5th in it. We'll see that our assembly is scheduled for that day on the calendar. And also we'll see in picking, it's scheduled for March 5th, and it's designed to be picked to, looks like, in the manufacturing area. So anyways, we've got multiple work orders on a manufacturer order, a way to categorize our work orders. And Fishbowl has a feature I like to say, planned versus actual. All right, so we've got quantity and quantity used here, mid-stride of the manufacturing process. We can swap out items. We can change the quantity. So look at the bill of material as the recipe on the shelf. The work order is the plan. So it's the recipe multiplied by a multiplier. And also Fishbowl has multiple units of measure. So a unit of measure to stock in, a unit of measure to receive in, a unit of measure to consume and manufacturing in, a unit of measure to sell in, and all these unit of measures can be bridged together with a conversion multiplier. So you don't have to consume in the same unit of measure that you stock in. You don't have to stock in the same unit of measure that you receive in. You don't have to sell in the same unit of measure you stock in. So now that we have issued all these manufacturer orders, we've created demand for all of these components, and the system sees that we're going to make these output items, which it calls finished goods, and we're going to consume these input items, which it calls raw goods. So the next step in this demo I'd like to take you to is the purchasing area. Once again, Fishbowl has a nice purchasing dashboard, it has nice purchasing reports. I'll take you to the purchase order screen. Fishbowl has this auto PO tool. What this auto PO tool does, when I click next is it looks at your forecasted quantity on hand. Forecasted quantity on hand is basically your quantity on hand, subtract allocated, plus on order. You know, what you currently have, what's going out, what's coming in, what is your forecasted quantity on hand going to be? And then it says, okay, if that forecasted quantity on hand is less than your reorder point or less than 0, basically less than your previously decided healthy stock level, then it says, well, you need to buy more. Then it'll tell you to buy enough to bring you back up to the maximum that you previously defined, if you previously defined a maximum. Or if your vendor imposes a minimum order requirement, it will round up to that minimum order requirement and say, sorry, you have to buy at least this much from the vendor. Vendor's rules. Vendor says so. And so what this tool does is it's super smart. It helps you decide what to buy, but you can override it and reject its recommendation if you want. You're not married to it. And this will help you actually build a purchase order. Or I like to change this to bid requests so we can go to each one by one, double check it, but see if we like it, issue it, email each one to the vendor. And when you issue a purchase order, then it changes the status to issued, and it also automatically gives you a pop-up to email the purchase order. So if we click finish here, we'll see that, oh, we've got all these bid requests now. And if I look at a bid request, it will notice it's in the status bid request. If we click issue up here, it might give us some sort of warning. There's different rules. This is nice. Vendor minimum order amount. You know, you sure you want to proceed? The vendor says you have to buy at least 2,500. So there's different rules that the software helps you follow, because vendors may have minimum order requirements for one particular item from a quantity perspective, or they may have minimum order requirement from a dollar perspective, right? You can also put rules in the system that says if you're purchasing over a certain amount, you have to get someone's approval to do that. So there's a lot of configuration settings. That's one thing about Fishbowl Advanced is it's mature software. It's been around for a long time, and software that's been around for a long time has a bit of maturity, meaning it's got a lot more features than newer, more recent software. So yeah, we can go ahead and send this PO to a vendor. We can also CC someone in the company if we want and send them a PO. Show you what this PO looks like. We'll go to File, Print Preview. This is what the purchase order looks like. And within the purchase order, if you don't like how it looks, if there's anything about it, you know, rubs you wrong, click on Modify Report. Anything that's printed out of Fishbowl can be modified right here under the Modify Report option. And look at all the options that Fishbowl gives you. Fishbowl just gives you a ton of options, and these are all things that you can use to massage the report to make it, or the printout, the template, to make the purchase order printout look just the way you like. Like I was helping someone recently with getting their sales order to look just right. And basically they wanted their sales order to show the options on the bill of material that their customer asked for. And so we were able to play around with the options in the printout configuration settings, so it would show the color that the customer asked for, and you know, the options. This company sold trailers, and they manufactured trailers, and so their customer may select a spare tire or a jack or a color of the trailer. So we played with the sales order screen and the bill of material to get it just right so it'll show what they want. And so a lot of these are customizable to a point. And then if you still need something extra, we here at Brandow Consulting provide a service for a charge, a fee, of course, to modify that report to get it just the way you want. Like for instance, I was mentioning deposit invoices or pro forma invoices. That's something that we give to our customers. Or we talked about the purchasing algorithms, right? We produced a report that we give to our customers that put in the forecasted quantity on hand and also the total dollar amount, just to help your purchasing person make more informed decisions before they create the purchase orders. Some people just like the report instead of the tool, or I think it works well to use both the report and the tool when you're making purchasing decisions. So yeah, now we can go through and issue these purchase orders and email them to the vendors, and issue this guy, email it to the vendor, make up some mock vendor here. And we'll go ahead and issue all these purchase orders. Let's get all these purchase orders sent out. Bid request means we haven't sent it to the vendor, and the software doesn't recognize it as a true PO. And so if you don't issue it and you use the tool again and ask the software what you should buy, it will recommend the same item to purchase. So you've got to have your default vendors set up, and also lead times is good to put in the system. This is a great thing to see, is the system will automatically determine when you're going to receive it. It will guess when you're going to receive it based on the lead time that you have in the system. So if you take some time and get things set up right and put the lead times for your items in the system, then the software knows when it will arrive, and that helps with some of its MRP reports, like the short forecast report or the short work order report, and helps you determine when you can start a work order. So now that we've gone over sales and manufacturing and purchasing, let's take a look at receiving. So we've created purchase orders. The next place to go is receiving. And now we can start to pull out the mobile device a little bit more. So you can receive either in the desktop app or the mobile device right here. And what I like to teach my customers is to adopt the principle, the person that touches the inventory should be the person that records what he or she did in real time. If you can adopt that principle, you can achieve accurate inventory. The person that touches the inventory should be the person that records what he or she did in real time. So make sure that you have a computer next to your shipping and receiving area, or empower your people with this Fishbowl Advanced Mobile. Now you can download this from the iApp Store or the Android Google Play Store, whichever you're using. This is just an emulator. If you're interested in using an emulator in your implementation project, I use BlueStacks. So it's just a mobile emulator. And you can also use or purchase something like a TC70, something like this, right? And run Fishbowl on a more robust mobile device that's not going to break, touch screen. And so if we're looking at receiving, we can come here and tap on receiving. We see a list of purchase orders here, and you can change the size of your font on your mobile device. And I think most people like the font size to be different. So check that out on your mobile device. If the font is too small, don't say, oh, Fishbowl sucks, man, this is horrible. It's actually not Fishbowl, it's your mobile device. And we can change the display resolution on your mobile device just like we can change the display resolution on a computer screen. So I don't think it changed it on this screen, but I think it changed it on this screen here. We change interface scaling. So we can select a purchase order, and notice it's telling us where to take it. All right, so you've got the packing list in hand, you're counting your items, highlight the item. If it counts exactly to say 217, then we can go ahead and click receive, and that's fulfilled. Let's select purchase order 50,006. Go to that PO, and notice it's telling us where to receive it. So if it's a different quantity, or we're going to receive it to a different location, we can hit the edit button and say, no, we're going to receive it to a different location. And maybe we're on a forklift or a pallet jack, and on the shelf in the warehouse, we have an actual barcode to scan, which Fishbowl will print out for you if you want to label your shelves, which I recommend you do. So if we're receiving this one to Salt Lake City and it's a different quantity, we can put in a higher quantity and receive it, and it allows that. There's also user rights that will disallow that if you prefer that. So I don't have locations set up in Salt Lake City yet. It's just the default stock 100, stock 300 locations. And we can also receive a lesser amount. Say we just got 200 instead of 206. Now, if we're receiving, now look, it says we've got 6 left. If we're receiving something that is serialized, it will ask us to receive that serial number as well. And we'll just leave this open and click save if there's more to receive. And it will update the status over here as we receive. We can receive here as well and change the location, Notice this looks kind of similar to the mobile device. Receiving is really important to get right. And so I think it's important to, if you're a large enough company, I think it's important to have robust receiving functionality to assure that you're receiving everything correctly. Now, here's a good example of an item that has expiration date tracking turned on. So it's giving us a pop-up to say, hey, what's the expiration date on this item? So we're going to push it back a few years, put in the expiration date, and click finish. And we can do that with a mobile device as well. And if we receive it into receiving, Fishbowl has another feature in the transfer order screen. I'm going to take you to the transfer order screen now. We're going to go over here to materials, transfer order. And on the transfer order screen, it has this put away button. If we click put away, it will say, all right, well, what do you want to put away? I want to put away everything that's in the receiving location. And if we have default locations set, then it will come up with where they belong. But basically what it just did is it grabbed everything that's sitting in receiving and it created a transfer order, a put away type transfer order. And now that put away type transfer order will show up on the picking screen, and we can now start a pick, and this T19 is going to show up on the mobile device now. If we go over to the picking screen in the mobile device, we'll see a T19 here, and it'll tell us what we need to put away. So we'll select one at a time, and notice it's saying the destination is receiving. We obviously need to change that. So we'll take our picking cart or our pallet jack over to the designated spot, and we'll scan the barcode on the location. Say the barcode says stock 200 on it. We'll scan that. Boop. And actually, I'm in the wrong place. This is what happens when I talk and click at the same time. I'm supposed to be good at this, right? So we're going to stock 100. That actually looks good. So I'll go ahead and tap that down here. Then do the next one. We'll select the next one, hit enter. And so yeah, it's given me the default location, so that's good, or maybe that's the default stock location. You can set the program to do that, to receive into receiving, and then when you go to put it away, tell you where it belongs as well. And of course you can override it and put it wherever you put it. So just scan, basically put your cursor here, scan the shelf and say, this is where I'm putting it. And do that for each one. Go to the next location, scan the shelf, and hit done. Go to the next location, scan the shelf, hit done. Be sure to count it, of course. What if the quantity is different? Be sure to count it. Now this one's kind of a stickler because we already counted it when we received it, and transferring is going to say, hey, you can't transfer more than you received, buddy. That's not going to work. But you can divide it between locations too. You can 50 in this location and then the remaining 74 in another location. It's like I say, Fishbowl is super robust warehouse management. And this mobile device here that I'm demonstrating is one of the most robust mobile devices I've seen in the small business world for warehouse management. Super robust warehouse management tool. So I showed you receiving, and might be good to skip through. Oh, good. Okay, so here's a good example of something that's tracked by lot number and serial numbers. So we've got 2, and there's a lot of different ways to put serial numbers in the system. You can create them, or if the vendor supplies them, you can scan them. And also you can receive with a spreadsheet as well. If you have a list of serial numbers, you can receive with a spreadsheet. So Be sure to watch my videos on receiving or just reach out to me if you have questions about anything that I haven't gone over in this video. Obviously, probably can't go over everything. Let's keep going. What's received, we need to reconcile. So I just clicked the reconcile button right here, and that popped up an area where I put in the invoice number. That's what I put here. I put in the invoice number and the bill date. In other words, the vendor invoice I'm talking about, right? The vendor's invoice is your bill. And this is where the accountant or bookkeeper has the chance to fix things if they see something screwed up. So let's say we want to change that to actually it's $23.50. It wasn't $22.50. We got that wrong. So we fix that. We add shipping or tariffs or brokerage fees, right? We can go ahead and add those here. Also, land the costs. Say, all right, what are we going to do with that $540? We're going to roll it up into the value of the item. If this doesn't match, then you go back, fix your mistake. Before you click finish, we want this to match the vendor's invoice. That's why it's called reconcile, because we're reconciling this with the vendor invoice. And click finish. So at that point in time, Fishbowl queues up data to post to QuickBooks, okay? We received inventory, so that's going to debit inventory. We received a vendor's invoice, so that's going to credit payables. We now have a payable. And if you received without reconciling, that's totally fine. It's just going to debit inventory and credit a holding liability account until you do get the invoice from the vendor. And then it'll reverse that previous transaction and create a new transaction, debiting inventory and crediting payables. And also with shipping, of course, debiting shipping expense, crediting shipping payables. And if you land the costs, then it'll credit shipping expense and debit inventory, put it into inventory. So there's all this accounting going on under the hood when we're clicking on buttons here and queuing up journal entries and bill transactions to be sent to QuickBooks. And we actually see that over here under the accounting integration area, where previous to this video, I went ahead and connected it to a dummy QuickBooks Online account. And so now we see all this queued up. We can even run a report to see, okay, what's queued up waiting to go over. We can check a box to say, yeah, show me what's queued up waiting to go over. And then we can just click export and we'll validate data and see if we can export. Watch, I'll probably get an error message here. Always happens when I'm trying to record something. I always get an error message. Oh no, look, it's actually going to work. Inventory adjustments. These are other transactions I did before this demo video, but item receipts, those are the ones that you saw me just do. The bill you saw me just do. And actually it all went over just fine. And so we can go over to QuickBooks now and actually see these transactions in QuickBooks if you're interested, and take a look at expenses and bills, and we should see a new bill that we just brought over from Fishbowl here. So today is 2/25, so that's the one right there. And if we take a look at it, you'll see that Fishbowl also, let's zoom into this bill a little bit more, because I want to show you that Fishbowl also puts its own little signature on here, so you can tell what Fishbowl created. And I always recommend that you use a Fishbowl username in QuickBooks, so when Fishbowl connects to QuickBooks, it also leaves an audit trail to say, oh, Fishbowl created this transaction. Fishbowl, kind of a double audit, even though Fishbowl is still telling you, hey, I created this transaction. So you can see that. If we want to take a look at P&L and the balance sheet to see what else it put on, so those receipts are going to be on the balance sheet. Let's take a look at the balance sheet to see the journal entries that Fishbowl put on there. We've got inventory assets here. There we go. That's what we want. And we've got inventory asset there. We've got two inventory asset accounts. And we see that a purchase order affected our inventory asset account, a sales order, and they all got this FB colon here. So you'll see Fishbowl is leaving its signature throughout the whole thing. There's a lot of other adjustments that went on before today's demo. And we see this just received PO, and this one's reconciled PO. And if we go into the received PO, we'll see the journal entry that it's debiting inventory and crediting the holding account, like I mentioned. Anyways, it's nice to actually see it in QuickBooks sometimes, isn't it? So now that's received in, we've got the inventory in, we should be able to start a work order and finish a work order. So Let's do that. The way I like to start my work orders is actually in the picking screen, because the picking screen has all the work orders and when they're scheduled to start, but even more important, when they're available, if they're available. Green means we've got everything ready to go. We can start and finish this work order, no problem. Yellow means we might have a problem, like we're missing a ton of inventory on this. That's obviously a problem. We can't start that until we get the inventory in stock. So let's start this one. We'll start the pick. And I like to print out the pick ticket. The pick ticket has a barcode right here, and it's got the location to pick it from and the destination to pick it to. But also in the mobile device, we have picking, and you'll see this same one just appeared. So I have a setting set that says don't show it in the mobile device unless we start the pick. So that's why it's only showing the started ones. We can scan this barcode to load the work order up on the screen. And I like to print out the pick tickets because if you have multiple pickers, for instance, we don't want them picking the same thing. So if you print out pick tickets, each one can just select one pick ticket and you just train them, just scan the pick ticket and just focus on picking the pick ticket. Then you don't have multiple people picking the same thing. So you scan the barcode and tells you what location to go to. Go to that location, select it, and if everything's exactly right, 57 of them in stock, we can just hit this pick and the pick is done. Now if we go back to this screen, you'll see now that this pick is finished. So going back to my previous soapbox principle, the person that touches the inventory should be the person that records what he or she did in real time. So if you do it the way I just showed you, then your inventory is going to be accurate. Your pickers are recording that they picked it once they've completed it in real time. They're like, done, picked it. Once again, start the pick, preview the pick ticket. Now, I was going to show you how to start a work order, and I like starting them from the picking screen. So we go to the picking screen, we start the pick, print out the pick ticket, and let's set that aside. And then there's a link here to the work order. So we click on the work order. There's also a start button. Click start. And now we've started the work order, and we can now print the work order traveler. Now the difference between the work order traveler and the pick ticket is the work order traveler shows you how much you used, and you can record or write on the work order traveler how much you yielded. So what did you actually use? What did you actually yield? Now Fishbowl won't let you use more than you pick. So with picking, this is a nice feature that Fishbowl has when picking work orders. If we go back here and refresh this screen, 0203, come on. So there it is, refresh the screen. Now if we go to this pick, we can over pick, which is so common with manufacturing. So we can say, oh, we need to pick 53 of these, not 32. Click pick, and it's totally fine with that. This is really common in the food industry to just pick a whole bag or a whole pallet rather than the exact ingredients. People that are actually doing the blending are going to grab the exact ingredients, but the pickers are going to grab whatever is the unit of measure on the shelf. 50-pound bag, for instance. They're just going to grab that. So go through and pick using this mobile device and basically stage our manufacturing area with everything they need and probably more than what they need, and finish this pick, right? So that's picking. That's part of starting a work order. Also, finishing a work order, we could write on this piece of paper, or as I mentioned earlier in this demo, we can change the view of this to a more work order friendly view. And now we can pull up this work order right here. So this is basically an electronic work order traveler. You can scan the work order traveler. Now notice we've got these steps that I was mentioning before, and you can say, oh, we completed this step, we completed this step, and notice it's got the quantities that you're completing too, so it tracks it. If you just put this in the manufacturing area on whatever they're working on, you can allow them to tap the screen and finish the steps. So we finished the step and it auto advanced us to the next screen. Also, we can record actual consumption. So if I tap this button here, we can record actual consumption. We may not want to consume everything that we picked as mentioned previously, notice this is what we're supposed to consume, 57, 57, 57. But it says, hey, we've got this much available to consume. But we're going to put in our actual consumption. This one here is divided between a couple of areas. So we're going to consume 50 of this one, 7 of this one. It's probably a different lot. But yeah, we put in our actual consumption, which is super important for achieving accurate inventory, is recording what we actually consume. And we may consume more because something went wrong and we scrapped it. And then we may yield less because we didn't do a perfect job. So we can put in our actual yield. And print report, sure, we can print a report if we want. I don't know if I have it set up to do that, but it tried. Okay, that's good enough. It went to my printer. My printer's giving me all kinds of error messages. Okay, so that's one way to close out a work order. We actually just closed out that work order with the mobile device. But we can also close out work orders in the manufacturing area if you prefer to use. So let's go ahead and skip through picking on this. Don't recommend you do what I just did. This is just for demo purposes. Don't ever do what I just did. We definitely want to use the mobile device and pick each individual line. Now that it's picked, let's say they give us a work order traveler. We can come here now and record the actual consumption, record the actual serial numbers. So we've got actual quantities and then actual yield. Here we're making 15 bicycles, it looks like, and each one is serialized, looks like in this example. 15 serial numbers now. So what you just saw me do is close out a work order with the Fishbowl desktop. Definitely watch my other videos if you want to dive into further detail on any of these steps. Like I said, I've got 100 Fishbowl tutorial videos you can check out too. So we just closed out a manufacturer order. Next, probably the most likely place to go now is to close out sales orders. You might think, well, let's go to the sales order screen. No, we don't go to the sales order screen to close out a sales order. We go to the picking screen and pick what we just made. So now that we made a bunch of stuff, we can ship a bunch of stuff. And same process, print out a pick ticket and come here to the picking screen, and there's our sales order to pick, and finish off the pick. And this one's hard to demo because it requires the serial number, and there's no cheating. There's no cheating. So if I come here and go to the inventory screen, I can see the serial number and I can scan a serial number or print a serial number. But if you're doing serial number tracking, you're going to definitely want a mobile device and barcodes for your serial numbers, or you're going to be hating it. All right, so that should have done it. There we go. And I think it wanted 2 serial numbers. So the next one, oh, it only wanted 1. Okay, click save. Okay, we've got a green light on serial numbers. Looks good. So this is a good time to point out that Fishbowl is an inventory control software. And the 2 biggest control points in an inventory management software is receiving and picking. Notice receiving required us to put in lot numbers and expiration dates, and picking requires us to tell it which lot number or expiration date or serial number we are picking. There's no cheating, and it might be frustrating to those using the software, but those who own the company are very happy about that, usually, because inventory is accurate. Sorry about your luck, material handlers. Congratulations, business owners, for making a good choice and getting a good software. So we pick, and then the next step after picking is packing. Over here in packing, everything that we picked is on this packing screen. And over here, we see the same things. Everything we picked is piled up here under shipping. And if you have a policy to get the customer's payment before you ship, once something is paid, it will show a big paid stamp right here. I was just talking to another customer of mine that is their policy. And so the sales rep can see what's in the shipping area, and then they send pro forma invoice to the customer saying, hey, you need to pay before we ship, and then once the customer pays, we can come here into payment, say, all right, they paid with ACH, $30, process the payment, and now that that's paid, it'll give a timestamp on the sales order screen. And then when we go to the shipping screen says paid, and if that's your policy, then that tells the shipping guys that they can go ahead and ship this, pack this, do what they need to do to get it out the door. And so Fishbowl integrates with ShipStation. Fishbowl has its own Ship Express integration, which is like with Shipbo. Fishbowl also integrates with UPS and FedEx. So a lot of shipping integrations Fishbowl has, and it has kind of its own internal shipping as well. Fishbowl can print out shipping labels, or you can integrate with UPS or FedEx and ShipStation and have one of those carrier software print out shipping labels. So this is the time to print out shipping labels, or if you're doing freight, print out a bill of lading. So this is a place where you can print out a bill of lading if you're doing LTL or FTL. And also we put in the weight and tracking number. We'll come back here, and all those can be added, or a lot of those data can be added to the invoice as well. And we've got carton types, so you can create your default carton sizes to automatically populate as well. Once you've packed a bunch of picked orders and you've maybe even printed out a packing slip, that's another option too. You can print out this packing slip, put it in a quarter sleeve and stick it on the outside of the box and set it aside and wait for the carrier to show up to pick up your packages. Let's add the status here. You see, oh, that one's packed, that one's not. Go ahead and pack these, get them all packed. So now that they're all packed, when we click batch shipment and say, FedEx is here to pick up their packages. Here's the orders that are ready for FedEx. And then these email addresses will email the packing list to the customers. Unless you'd prefer to email a shipping invoice, you can also swap out the packing list for the shipping invoice on the outbound email as well. For e-commerce peeps, you can just rely on the e-commerce software to send that out as well. And with an e-commerce type integration, once you ship it, it'll update your e-commerce software with the with the notification that it's been shipped. So we can ship it, and once it's been shipped, then that's pretty much the end of our cycle of workflow. We created a sales order, we created work orders, we created purchase orders, we fulfilled the purchase orders, we fulfilled the work orders, we fulfilled the sales orders. And now that the sales orders are fulfilled, they're queued up and ready to export to QuickBooks again. So now if we come here to click export, and you can put this on a timer, by the way, there's a scheduled timer that you can turn your exports on, so it just automatically exports to QuickBooks once or twice a day or whatever you want. So now you see, okay, we shipped, so those shipments created invoices in QuickBooks. And also we closed out some manufacturer orders, so those created manufacturer order adjustments in QuickBooks. Let's take a look at those, huh? So down here on the 25th, we see receive PO, receive PO, receive PO. These actually are the ones we received. I was looking up here earlier. That's a different day. Counting adjustment for PO, receive, cycle count adjustment. Oh, it's looking at a cash. So let's change that to accrual. Oh, didn't like that. Should be on the accrual accounting if you're doing inventory and you're doing over $1 million a year. Let's go back to, now let's take a look at receivables. Let's bring it all the way up to today's date. There's our invoices that Fishbowl created. Let's go to the invoice, take a look. You'll see Fishbowl puts its signature on it. We see the serial number there and the description and the product service. If there was a customer PO, that would flow through here. And you can set Fishbowl to have the same sales order number as the QuickBooks invoice number. So you can set it up so Fishbowl is actually creating the QuickBooks invoice number as well. And then let's take a look at those manufacturer order adjustments, manufacturing adjustments. Now the best way to set this up is for labor to be a direct absorption account as a sub account of wages. That's how it works best with Fishbowl. So think about that when you're connecting Fishbowl or really any IMS to QuickBooks that does manufacturing. That's the way it's going to want to handle it. If you were just using QuickBooks before, you probably just put everything to COGS. Well, it'll eventually end up in COGS when you sell it, but at the time that you're absorbing labor into manufacturing, you need to set your labor as a sub account of wages as a direct labor absorption. And that's where you're going to get your manufacturing adjustments, a credit to labor and a debit to inventory. I don't know if I set this up that way or not, but we're going to see cycle count adjustments on here. I'm not seeing manufacturing adjustments. And it matters how we have this connected, how we have the accounts mapped. If it's creating a journal entry that's a wash, like it's a debit and a credit to the exact same account, then we actually won't see anything, and that's what I'm worried about. And I didn't see labor on any of the bills of material or the manufacturer orders that we did. So just looking at the ones that we fulfilled today, these are the ones that we fulfilled today. And that one doesn't have any labor, and this one doesn't have any labor. So if they're all mapped to just that one asset account, then it's a wash. It's just going in and out of the same account. There's no labor, so actually, it didn't create. Sorry, normally would. So to close up here, to finish off our demonstration, I think a good place to finish up is in this reporting area, this reports area. So we mentioned that Fishbowl recently created a new partnership with Conversite and is labeling some new dashboards and reports in its system as AI Insight. And rightfully so. It's very exciting. And for a little extra fee, you can edit reports more easily with AI Insights and even make purchasing decisions and manufacturing decisions. Say you need more robust forecasting. Instead of using reorder points in the auto MO and the auto PO to make production scheduling decisions and purchasing decisions, you can use AI Insights to make forecasting decisions where you can actually say, okay, I know I'm going to sell this, and this next month or this next week, and based on your forecasted sales, make production decisions and purchasing decisions. You can do that with Fishbowl and AI Insights. So that's super cool with reporting. And then also Fishbowl has tons and tons of reports going back to what I mentioned about Fishbowl's age and maturity level. It's super mature software and has audit trails, sales reports, purchasing reports, manufacturing reports, production consumption reports. A couple of reports that tend to come across people liking a lot is the part activity report. It's kind of an audit trail for a part, or costing reports. A good one is historical part cost report that a lot of people are looking at, the historical costing layer valuation report. Now with Fishbowl, you'll be looking at inventory values in Fishbowl. You'll be looking at sales reports in Fishbowl. So think about that when you're adding an IMS to an accounting software. Some of your reports are going to shift. You should be looking in the IMS for valuations and sales and not necessarily the accounting software anymore. Fishbowl also, in the recent years, has come out with a better auditing and audit trails. So that's super cool. You can get robust auditing. And also you can store files. So if your customer gives you a purchase order, you can store the customer's purchase order in the sales order module and just, like from your email file or something. I'm just going to grab some random thing, but you can upload things into a file storage, so to speak. Also, on that note, you can store pictures. All your products can have pictures, nice pictures in them, and that helps as well. So hopefully you enjoyed the full deep dive overview demo of Fishbowl. Once again, I'm Lance, Fishbowl Inventory expert since 2006. I actually got my start working for Fishbowl from 06 to 09, and then I worked for Brandow Consulting, an accounting and consulting company, for a couple of years before I founded Brandow Consulting in 2012, primarily to help Fishbowl users. And then several years ago, I started partnering with any inventory management software that connects to QuickBooks or any inventory management software that is good for a small business owner. And we look at ERP for small businesses as well. So be sure to subscribe and like if you like this video. Love to respond to comments. Be sure to comment below and subscribe. Helps my ego. Boost my ego. Be sure to subscribe. Feel free to ask questions. Take a look at the other videos about Fishbowl or other software programs I have on this channel.